Hello. Before we delve deeper into the presentation, please see my AI declaration here. Hello again, my name is Misbah, and in my individual presentation today, I will be discussing various different leadership theories and how these theories apply to two key business leaders. Alongside this, I will be applying these theories to my own workplace and concluding the presentation with my findings. The agenda of this presentation is as follows. I'll start by providing an explanation of the different leadership theories, and we'll follow this on by explaining how Warren Buffett's leadership style reflects the four I's of transformational theory. I will then proceed by explaining how Jeff Bezos is a transactional leader, drawing on both theory and examples. After this, I will critically compare and contrast both leaders and evaluate advantages and disadvantages of their leadership styles. Hereafter, I will evaluate the leadership styles in my workplace and BDA and how it's impacted organizational outcomes. I will then make recommendations for how leadership in my workplace could be improved based on insights from Buffet and Bezos and applying theoretical concepts. Finally, I'll conclude my presentation by summarizing key points and listing out my references. So, what are leadership theories and what are the different types, one may ask? Well, leadership theories provide a foundation for understanding how individuals influence and guide others within organizations. Transformational leaders can be defined as leaders who focus on inspiring and motivating followers in order to enable them to succeed. Transformational leaders seek to create positive change by encouraging creativity, building trust, and aligning individual goals with the wider objectives of the organization. Moving on to ethical leaders, they can be defined as leaders who demonstrate appropriate conduct and promote two-way communication and decision-making. They model ethical behavior, promote transparency, and foster a culture of respect. Transactional leaders, on the other hand, can be defined as leaders who are task-focused and goal-orientated, and this leadership style seems to be loosely based on the roles of rewards and punishments. It relies on clear expectations, measurable outcomes, and an effective framework of rewards and penalties. Together, the theories offer valuable insight into the different aspects of leadership, from inspiring transformation to upholding ethical standards to maintaining organizational efficiency. Transformational leadership is characterized by the four I's: idealized influence, inspirational motivation, intellectual stimulation, and individualized consideration. Warren Buffett, CEO of Berkshire Hathaway, exemplifies each of these dimensions through his transformational leadership style. Warren Buffett believes that leaders win if long-term value compounds, and this encapsulates the essence of transformational leadership, which focuses on sustainable change, shared purpose, and ethical influence rather than short-term results. This mindset closely aligns with the four I's method. With regards to idealized influence, Buffett acts as a moral role model. His transparent communication and annual shareholder letters demonstrate his integrity and consistency in both himself as a leader and his investment philosophy. For inspirational motivation, Buffett inspires through a clear values-driven vision centered on patience and sustainable growth. His optimism about the economy and use of storytelling engages followers emotionally, and thus he is seen as an inspiration. For intellectual stimulation, Warren empowers managers by granting autonomy and encouraging innovative thinking across Berkshire's subsidiaries. He models learning through self-reflection and openly acknowledges his mistakes. Regarding individualized consideration, Buffet nurtures talent by mentoring future leaders, showing trust and personalized support for their development. As such, Buffet's leadership style reflects all four elements of transformational leadership. Warren Buffett's leadership at Berkshire Hathaway reflects ethical leadership through integrity, fairness, and responsibility. As such, Buffett can be regarded as an ethical influencer and ethical leader. Ethical leaders promote ethical conduct and make principled decisions that benefit stakeholders, traits evident in Buffett's actions and both the values and culture of his company. Berkshire Hathaway has a culture based on an ethical code that promotes honesty, integrity, a long-term orientation, and an emphasis on the customer. This culture has been described as being influenced by the tone at the top. From this, I can decipher Buffet's consistent integrity, fairness, and sense of responsibility exemplify ethical leadership, reinforcing stakeholder trust and long term organizational sustainability. His integrity is shown through transparency in shareholder letters, where he openly discusses both successes and mistakes, such as admitting the failed Dexter Shoe acquisition. This honesty builds trust and sets a moral example for others. Fairness is demonstrated through his modest salary and equitable management approach, giving subsidiary leaders autonomy and evaluating them on long term value rather than short term gains. Responsibility is seen in his commitment to socially responsible investing and his actions during the 2008 financial crisis, where he supported companies like Goldman Sachs to stabilize the market. Jeff Bezos demonstrates elements of transactional leadership, which focuses on clear structures, rewards, and performance based outcomes. As discussed, transactional leaders motivate through exchanges, rewarding compliance and correcting deviations. Jeff Bezos applied this approach at Amazon through strict performance goals, data driven monitoring, and high performance culture, where rewards and job security were contingent on results. For example, warehouse workers' productivity was closely tracked and bonuses or disciplinary actions were tied directly to measurable outcomes, reflecting the contingent reward and dimensions of transactional theory. Bezos also established a culture of accountability through mechanisms like the leadership principles and six-page memos, ensuring employees met precise standards before decisions progress. Whilst this approach fostered efficiency and innovation speed, it also sometimes created a high pressure environment, illustrating both the strengths and limitations of transactional leadership in driving performance at scale. Based on his leadership style, highly demanding environment, and focus on processes or standards like the six-page memos, Bezos displays characteristics that align with a Theory X manager. However, his emphasis on innovation makes his leadership style more complex than a singular label, one can argue. Buffet and Bezos are similar in their data driven and evidence based decision making leadership styles. However, there is a lot that sets the two leaders apart. Warren Buffett's leadership at Berkshire Hathaway is values driven, and he aligns with a transformational and ethical Theory Y orientated philosophy, assuming managers are intrinsically motivated, responsible, and capable of self direction. His emphasis on trust, autonomy, and long term value creation, evidence in his decentralized management model and stewardship focused decision making, embodies idealized influence and integrity. Conversely, Jeff Bezos is output driven, as he exemplifies a predominantly transactional Theory X leaning style, reflected in Amazon's reliance on strict performance matrix, close monitoring, and reward punishment mechanisms. This philosophy assumes that high performance emerges from external control and structured incentives. Thus, the key contrast lies in Buffet's values driven, developmental view of human motivation versus Bezos's output driven, control based model, producing divergent organizational cultures, stakeholder experiences, and forms of value creation. Using the Harrison Handy typology, Jeff Bezos leads a predominantly task role culture characterized by high performance team, data driven processes, and tightly structured systems that emphasize speed, efficiency, and measurable outcomes. This hybrid culture reflects Jeff Bezos as a leader through Amazon's organizational outcome via its reliance on rapid problem solving and rigorous operational discipline. In contrast, Warren Buffett cultivates a distinctive person centered culture in which highly autonomous subsidiary leaders exercise professional judgment with minimal oversight, supported by a light power culture concentrated in Buffett's role. This trust based environment reinforces long term value creation and aligns with Warren Buffett as a leader and impacts Berkshire Hathaway's organizational outcome of empowering employees to operate independently. Warren Buffett's transformational leadership approach has many advantages, such as how it strengthens stakeholder confidence, cultivates ethical cultures within subsidiaries, and produces steady and sustainable organizational outcomes, leading to a rise in motivation for all. It does, however, have some negative limitations, and a key disadvantage of Warren Buffett's transformational leadership style is that, in line with McGregor's Theory Y assumptions, his high trust in managers' intrinsic motivation and self direction can create uneven performance across Berkshire's decentralized businesses, particularly when some leaders require more structure or oversight than his handoff approach provides. Bezos's leadership is effective in driving operational efficiency through generating a Y culture, rapid innovation, and shareholder returns. However, his leadership style can generate ethical tensions, employee strain, and contested stakeholder impacts. Bezos's leadership style works if all employees were in level 1 of the moral development chart. In other words, if all his employees follow rules to avoid punishment and have blind obedience to authority for their own sake, then his leadership style would work. However, each of his employees have varying different personalities, and some may be conventional or post-conventional too, thus showing Jeff Bezos' leadership style isn't effective for his employees, thus impacting the long-term organizational performance of Amazon. In my organization, MBDA, my placement manager demonstrates a democratic leadership style in Lewin's terms, regularly bringing the team into discussions and treating decision making as a shared activity rather than a top down directive. This aligns closely with the 9-9 team management position on Blake and McCann's grid, where high concern for people and results is expected to strengthen trust, motivation, and long term performance. However, while her motivating approach supports a positive culture, it can become less effective when we face time critical decisions that require a clearer direction. From a situational leadership perspective, she works particularly well with high maturity teams who benefit from her participative style, though she sometimes struggles to shift into a more telling or selling mode when newer staff, or perhaps less experienced staff, such as myself as an apprentice in the team, need firmer guidance. Contrastingly, one of the lead project managers that I report into operates a much more autocratic and task focused style. His emphasis on clear instructions, rapid decision making, and more hygiene factors match the 9-1 authority compliance style, enabling him to deliver efficiency and benefit from short term performance gains in MBDA's high pressure environment. I would argue, however, that this strength quickly becomes a limitation, as the same behaviours that can restrict creativity and almost create dependence on his direction. Situationally, he is highly effective with inexperienced team members like myself that require a strong telling style, but he often fails to adjust his approach as employees develop, and I have noticed that this has resulted in frustration and reduced motivation amongst the more experienced staff in my team. Media, my manager, who favors a democratic, people centered style, has positively influenced organizational culture and employee motivation by meeting the love and belonging and esteem needs from Maslow's hierarchy of needs through making the team feel recognized and respected. Similarly, her people-focused style strengthens all three components of Vroom's expectancy theory as she goes out of her way to involve team members in the decision-making process, thus cultivating an inclusive environment which resultingly supports business success. Her approach aligns closely with MBDA's core values of team spirit. Resultingly, this contributes to retention as her leadership style supports in motivating employees. On the performance side, however, her consultative style might struggle to keep pace with MBDA's urgent production demands as the company invests in ramp up. In contrast, however, my lead project manager has driven rapid performance, helping MBDA achieve its goal of delivering backlog. But that same autocratic style may risk undermining MBDA's inclusive leadership culture and its long term innovation capacity by limiting input, reducing psychological safety needs from Maslow's theory, and demotivating highly skilled engineers by focusing only on hygiene factors. His type performance feedback and specific challenging goals relate strongly with Locke and Latham's goal setting theory, which is perfect for driving performance. However, team members have said to feel lack of ownership and motivation, especially when goals aren't realistic, as it then leads to job dissatisfaction and employee burnout. One way to improve leadership at MBDA is to combine Buffet's and Bezos's approaches, which would enhance trust and motivation by giving employees both a sense of purpose and clear expectations. A second recommendation is to strengthen goal clarity and motivation. Leaders should set specific challenging goals and link effort to outcomes clearly. In practice, MBDA have shown that clear performance metrics and structured feedback improves throughput and quality without compromising employee engagement, evidencing how these approaches support a high-performing, positive organizational culture. Thank you for listening to my presentation. To summarize, whilst each leadership style has its own benefits and advantages, an effective blend of them all, dependent on the specific situation, will help enhance trust and motivation within the business. Drawing insight from Buffet, Bezos, and core leadership theories, the key message to take away is that adaptive leadership strengthens culture, enhances engagement, and drives more reliable performance. Thank you again for your time. Please provide feedback via email, phone, or through the following link. Please see reference slide 1. Please see slide 2 of references.